What is up, guys? Carter Bajanko here from the Tackle Rat, and today I'm going to be going over my top 3 least favorite tournament fishing baits. Let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Rat. So today I'm going to be breaking down my 3 least favorite tournament fishing baits. So tournament fishing, very specific because it's a little bit different from fun fishing. I'm trying to get big bites, trying to put fish in the boat, and not trying to lose fish. And also trying to fish fast, effectively, and catch fish. So I got 3 baits here, and before I start, just want to say I'm not bashing on any specific companies. I'm just talking about these bait categories as a whole. It really doesn't matter what brand you go with. They're all just very tough baits to fish in a tournament. So number 3, I'm gonna go from least to worst probably. Number 3 is gonna be the Texas rigged 4-inch Senko. So the reason I don't like this one, so wacky rig is generally what I throw in tournaments. And that's already painful enough as far as like your sink rate, your rate of fall. With that bait, it's very, very slow. It takes a lot of time to fish, and unless you really know what you're fishing and you really are confident that there's fish there, it's hard, really hard in a tournament to be fishing something so slow. And then when you go with a Texas rig, there's really not like any way to fish it. You kind of just pull it. And I really don't like it. It doesn't really have that same shimmy as a wacky rig. And when it comes through the water, it just looks, I don't know. It catches a lot of fish, but just not really a fan of throwing this bait. And then next one, so I got introduced to this summer. It's a spy bait. Very well known up north for catching really big smallmouth. But it's a very, very unique bait. So it originated in Japan, came over to the US, and it's a finesse technique generally for clear water. Not gonna say you have to be fishing it in these conditions, but clear water, pressured fish or smallmouth, and it imitates a little bait fish, falls kind of like a wacky rig, but the whole thing with this bait loses a ton of fish. So it's a heartbreaker. And you got to throw it on really light line, like 6 or 8 pound line, and it's a heavy bait. So like their smallest size, the Duo Realis one is the one most guys throw, but the smallest size is like 3/8 ounce. So it's a heavy bait, and then combined with that, you have very light wire treble hooks on these baits. And so when you hook big smallmouth, they're jumping all over, and that weight on the, being a very compact bait but being super heavy, it's like a big piece of lead. They can use that, and they come up and they leverage it, and they are able to throw that bait really easily. So it's a heartbreaker for sure, but it does catch fish, but it's just hard to throw in tournaments knowing that your bite to land ratio is not going to be the greatest. But I did catch a couple fish on it this year. Fun bait to fish. Definitely would throw it when I'm fun fishing. But in tournaments, I definitely like to have those higher percentage baits. And the next one, very close to my heart, it's gonna be big swim baits. So what I got right here actually is Depths 250. This is a 10-inch bait. So there's lots of guys that have really made careers out of swim bait fishing. Guys like Steve Kennedy, Chris Zaldain, throwing big swim baits. But if you guys tournament fish at all, this is a very high risk, high reward bait. But this is pretty much an enlarged version of the spy bait deal that I was talking about. So it's a giant bait. These baits are ranging anywhere from an ounce to like 6 to 7 ounces. I think this one's like 6 or 7 ounces. But like I said, what it does, you hook that fish, they come up, they can use that to leverage the bait and throw it. And it gets, that problem with throwing that bait just gets worse and worse as you move up in that category as far as weight in your swim baits. And then another one I got here is a soft bait. Glide baits can be really good for like drawing in fish. Love throwing them in practice. It's a lot of fun, and that's the reason some guys get hooked on the swim bait fishing. It's an insane bite, especially when you're throwing like a really big bait. And then combined with that tournament fishing and the adrenaline rush of being in a tournament and hooking a giant fish on one of these giant baits, it's really a different feeling, for sure. And that's why guys get addicted to it. But there's you have a lot of fish that'll swipe at it and miss it. You have, one day you may go out and catch 20 fish on a swim bait, and then the next day they don't even want to, be near it. So it's the bite really can shut off at any moment, and it's very condition specific as far as when you're gonna want to throw these things. But I tend to just avoid throwing them at all in tournaments, just because it's such a low percentage bite to land ratio. There's not really that many tournament situations where you can go and catch a big bag on swim baits in a multi-day tournament, unless you look like down a Lake Fork or any of those tournaments in Texas, or you go out west where that's like a normal thing to be throwing swim baits. But most of the stuff I fish, most of the tournaments that I fish are not, really fishing for giant fish or fishing, in areas where swim bait fishing is optimal. But yeah, swim bait fishing, it's a lot of fun, and I love doing it when I'm just fun fishing, but it's very risky in tournaments. And the glide baits are risky, but these soft swim baits, especially these bigger ones, can definitely generate a lot of bites, but very, very hard bite to chase and stay on for multi-day tournaments. But yeah, that's a little rundown of my 3 least favorite tournament baits. Yeah, let me know if you guys like that this kind of content. Thought I'd just share, maybe give you guys some tips if you guys are starting tournaments on what not to do. But yeah, thanks again for watching the video, and we'll see you guys on another episode of the Tackle Rat.